women for higher up positions because of exactly what we're reading in Proverbs 31. Women are made uniquely with the love that they have, the ability to keep going and going and going and going and doing what needs to be done. Going from sun up to sundown, no doubt, and even later than that. And I tell you, all we can say is God bless mothers for all the hard work that you've done over the years. For your love is shown through the hard work of your hands. And there's never a job that a mother's not willing to do when it comes to her children in her home. No matter how bad it is, they're always willing to take care of it and sacrifice themselves. I think the second thing that this passage shows is that her mouth speaks. The love that we see in moms is about how her mouth speaks. And in verse 26 it says, she speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction is on her tongue. Isn't that a beautiful picture? That's my little Mitchie and Mama, Brenda. But she speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction is on her tongue. I know myself, since I've been married, and especially since I have had children, I have done some stupid things. And there have been some things that when we've been making decisions or something to do with the children or the home or whatever, Brenda just shakes her head and wonders where that messed up wisdom is coming from. But women have a unique ability, the wisdom that they have. I can remember so many times the wisdom of my two grandmothers when we always visited at holidays and we were around them. They never spoke loud, they never really got upset or angry or anything, but yet they had this timing that with whatever you were dealing with or whatever you were talking about, when they spoke, everyone just kind of hushed like E.F. Hutton. And it was usually something said with deep love and caring that really had a world of wisdom tied into it. And you thought about it for many, many days on. And I think that's what the proverb is taking here. This lady, her mouth speaks wisdom, and faithful instructions is on her tongue. It's always there to uplift and to support and to encourage her children, her servants, even her husband. There's a true story. Preacher John Wesley, who was is the most famous Methodist minister. The church that I mentioned about my sister in Savannah is the first Methodist church that was built in America. And John Wesley, it's Wesley United Methodist Church, and that's where she attends. And when he was over at Oxford University and he was studying, he was surprised at the amount of drinking that students were doing even back then. And this preacher, John Wesley, asked his mother, Susanna Wesley, for counsel, and she said this. She said, "My dear son, remember that anything which increases the authority of the body over the mind is an evil thing." Anything that increases the authority of the body over the mind is an evil thing. And he said he never forgot that. He never forgot it. That his mind, his heart were the most precious thing. And even though he was upset at all the students that were drinking, and back in those days, they had full religion classes and all in their colleges back at Oxford, back in these days when John Wesley was coming through. It wasn't like today where you have to go to a special Bible college. Back before the 1800s, any college you went to back in those days, they had full religion built right into their worldly education that they were giving you. And so as he saw these students drinking, they were still studying the Bible, it bothered him. But his mom gave him such wonderful counsel. And so many times our mothers have done that too. Preacher G. Campbell Morgan, another very famous preacher throughout the late 19th century. Campbell Morgan had 4 sons, and all 4 of his sons became incredible ministers that led churches and did just wonderful work in the areas that they were. They were very well known, the Morgan family. And at a family reunion, one of the friends asked a question to one of the sons. He said, "Listen, you got your dad, you got your 4 sons, all of y'all are preachers." He said, "I want to know this. Which Morgan is the greatest preacher?" And without hesitation, the son said, "Well," that son looked at his father and he replied, "My mother. My mother." And that's true. I think some of the best preachers in the world today probably don't have the fame that other preachers have behind the pulpit, but the greatest preachers today have been mothers in the homes. as they preach everyday life and love, Christianity, that they've reared their children. And so that's why a mother also shows her love. Shows her love in how she speaks. And she speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction that's always on her tongue. And so her hands work, her mouth speaks, but then also another great characteristic of love for a mother is that her heart loves. Her heart loves. And that's found again in verse 11 and 12. If you look at those verses, it says, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. Certainly this is not called for a woman to bend over backwards and take abuse, or it's not called for a woman to certainly be mistreated in any way and continue to be mistreated. But I'll tell you this right now, behind any great man, there's a great woman. There's a great woman. And I'll tell you what makes the difference in my life. Personally, in my life, what makes my world so much better and gives me so much confidence is when I know that Brenda trusts me, I know that she has confidence in me, and I know that she loves me. When she looks at me and she has appreciation and she certainly tells me that I'm a good man, nothing else gives me confidence to go out there and to work as hard as I can and to do greater things than when she tells me that. And when it's not, when I mess up and she's angry with me, when I don't do the right thing, and I know I don't have those things, and I don't have her trust, then my week is horrible. Because it doesn't matter how much I sell in insurance, it doesn't matter how much I do and great things come along, if I know that she is not looking at me with a worthiness and love and appreciation, it doesn't matter what else I do, it's all ruined. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is that this woman has deep appreciation for her husband. She encourages him. She lifts him up. She wants to say good things about him and to help him be the best man that he can be. And certainly they are doing that. And so in verse 11 and 12, when it says her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value, she brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. This husband has full or complete confidence because of how good she is at home and what she does at home, so that he can do other things that he needs to do. And he knows that she's going to run the affairs and she's going to do things at home. Even this lady in Proverbs 13, it says that she sold land. She was a real estate person too. She actually bartered and she sold land out there for the family while the husband was doing other things. Now I'm going to tell you, I've got a good example of probably two people that aren't going to satisfy this Bible commandment here, that aren't going to satisfy this verse. If you look at this next screen, these two probably shouldn't be getting together. It says, if you were my husband, I'd poison your coffee. And he goes, if you were my wife, I'd drink it. And so many times today, though, we are just so caught up with ourselves and what we want to do that we have lost that unity in marriage. We have lost that unity in love with our mates in a way that we sacrifice for one another. And all we want to do is what I need, what I need, what I need. If you would do this, I could do this. If you would do that, I could be better at this. And we sit there and we never really sacrifice for one another and encourage one another and lift up. These two people definitely probably shouldn't get married, no doubt. Because they're not going to be the ones that encourage one another. They're not going to be the ones that lift up one another. But as we see on the next screen, there was an illustration one time, true story, about an epitaph that was written 60 years after 60 years of marriage and a wife died. And this is what he put on his wife's tombstone. She always made home happy. And isn't that wonderful? No matter what's going on in my home, I know Brenda has always known that. She is always, when things are tense or when the kids just aren't quite happy enough, she has a knack for finding something that just alters the whole mood of everything. Amen? And I know your moms have done that too. I know your wives have done that too. Excuse me. That little string hanging there. It's bugging me. But anyhow, they do that. They have this unique way of changing the whole atmosphere of a home. And that's what Proverbs 17:22 said at the bottom. A cheerful heart is good medicine, isn't it? It's good medicine. And they have always, I know Brenda, I know many of you, your mom, and then being a mother, you have always found a way to make a home a happy home. And we owe you thankfulness for that. We owe you a debt of gratitude when so many times we can get caught up into things and we just overpass what's really important.